Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And on this glorious day, where I find myself in the studio recording, we're going to do a story, a first of the day, and it is, of course, of our old friend, Lorna Slater. She is a woman of very limited intelligence and who never ever listens to what anyone ever says. So filled is she with her own self-importance and delusions of adequacy. Well, we've asked on this channel many times, as you know, why is she still employed? Why is she still in place? Why has she still got the responsibilities of office that she has? Nobody seems to know the answer, and any real leader would have fired her a long time ago. Indeed, had she worked in any business, she'd have been down the road. And yet here she is, still there. And it isn't just us asking, even the SNPs' own backbenchers are now asking. And there we're looking here today at an opinion piece by Megan Gallagher, who is the deputy head of the Scottish Conservatives. She's written this piece. I've been through it once and she asked the right questions. I think she's got it bang to rights. And we'll go through and we'll have a look at this and we'll question the same thing. How on earth has this woman not been fired? Here goes. So even mystified SNP backbenchers are asking why hopeless Lorna Slater is still in a job. It's a question asked many times by many people. It was inevitable that the SNP and the Greens would blame the UK government after postponing yet again their disastrous deposit return scheme. It is the Nationalists' go-to excuse for everything and as overused and unconvincing as a child claiming that the dog ate their homework. It is. Every time anything goes wrong, it's Westminster's fault. They can never say what the problem is because it is them. It is a woman who is incapable of rational thought, of taking responsibility, or even of doing her job and putting the paperwork in on time. So it's automatically Westminster's fault. And it's every SNP and Green. When things go wrong, it's Westminster's fault. Because they can never do anything wrong. But anyway, get back. Everyone knows that the one person responsible for making a dog's dinner of the DRS was Lorna Slater. Despite warnings, the Green co-leader insisted that everything was on track and that there was no alternative to businesses complying and that there were no circumstances in which she would not go ahead with her timetable. And so she was warned by firms big and small that her version was full of holes. We all knew this. We said from the very beginning there were so many problems with it. Everyone was saying about this, about that, about the other. They were talking about the fraud potential. They were talking about the effect on the internal market. They were talking about the pricing differentials, about how it would drive firms south of the border so they didn't have to comply with the return scheme if they were an English firm selling in Scotland and things like that. And it was absolutely disastrous. And yet still she ignored what everyone said and pushed on because apparently she knows best. Anyway, she knew it needed to conform with other UK legislation, but didn't even bother applying for an exemption to the UK Internal Market Act until the 11th hour. And she knew years in advance about this. This wasn't a last minute thing. She knew a long time in advance that she'd need to do it, and then chose, for some reason, not to. And so all the problems that she's had are all down to her, all down to this woman and her inabilities. You know, she's terrible. Anyway, she wouldn't countenance any concessions, alterations or further delay. She was still at it right up until the moment she admitted she was dropping it. But that was an SNP Green decision and no one else's as well. Yeah, I mean, she was living in a world of delusion. She kept thinking, oh, we'll go ahead. Oh, and then beyond delusion, she was in a state of denial. I think there's a lot of seriously psychiatric problems within Lorna Slater. I think she needs professional help. She's got this inability to say that she's wrong, an inability to see what is happening around her, and an inability to accept the facts. She is living in a world of her own creation, but it's not the world in which the rest of us live in. Anyway, the UK government said they would be happy for the scheme to go ahead on schedule if it was without glass. Then Circularity Scotland and Biffa, who are the main firms responsible for operating, said it would not only be possible, it was by far the best option. And we've said this as well, when even the experts, in the recycling and in the glass industry and things like that, and they're all saying, no, don't include glass. It's better without glass. You know that it's better without glass. And we've said it before, because the glass recycling is already so very, very efficient. I mean, she immediately comes out and says, oh, there'll be 600 million glass bottles littering Scotland. No, there won't, Lorna, because they're not littering Scotland now, because you've got 90% recycling. So what they're going to do, because this isn't on there, people aren't going to recycle glass like they currently are. Woman is delusional. But anyway, like a child in a huff, Lorna Slater didn't listen. Just as she hadn't when she was still ploughing on regardless. She listens to no one because she is the wise one. She's the only one who knows what's going on. Anyway, she's managed to alienate companies who, for the most part, were supportive. Politicians from every party were in and are in favour, just as they are from all other UK governments of DRS. It's just not her flawed version. They were all pro it, but not her version, because her version was quite plainly bonkers. And it takes a kind of reverse genius to bungle something that had so much backing. It proved that she's much less interested in the environment than in picking a nationalist fight with the rest of the UK. That's what a lot of this was. It was to keep driving division so that they can highlight the differences and then push for the need for independence. But even the Scots know themselves that the last thing they want is anything run by the SNP, because they look around them. They look at the NHS. That's SNP control. It's falling apart. Transport, it's a joke. Social care, are you kidding me? The how can we put this? The ending of life by certain products, the illegal products, pharmaceuticals. Can't say the words. YouTube doesn't like the term, but the number of people ending their lives by ODing and things like that. That's like at record levels. Everything that the SNP is responsible for is falling apart, and every time they blame Westminster, but it's nothing to do with Westminster. Anyway, the SNP Green government is desperate to cast blame on Westminster because there have been calls for compensation from Scottish firms, some of them fairly small retailers, who have collectively forked out millions on Lorna Slater's combinations of assurances and threats. And no one other than the most deluded SNP Green cheerleaders think that the tab should be sent to anyone other than the Scottish government. You may have heard my dog barking in the background there. Somebody's obviously dared to walk past the house. So they have this strong incentive, even if they have a laughably bad case. What is mystifying and why anyone would have the slightest interest or reason to defend Lorna Slater herself? It's hard to think how this woman has made such a massive dog's dinner of everything at every stage, and I mean literally at every stage where every decision has to be made. She makes the wrong decision despite having experts telling her to make a different decision, and she still ploughed on at every stage with the wrong decision. Everybody supported this bill. Everybody in Scotland, everybody in the Scottish government, everybody in the UK government, they all said, yes, DRS, this scheme, a scheme, was a great idea. We'll all work together, we'll pull together, and we'll make it happen. Just not the way you did, because you are a moron who would destroy everything, and you cannot accept that because of your hubris and your sheer stupidity. And your state of denial. It is ridiculous. She needs to go. I mean, I say, as somebody who makes videos about her, that she is comedy gold. I mean, I could make videos all day about this woman. But she is absolutely moronic, and she absolutely needs to go, because everything she touches just falls apart. And then the worst thing is, she'll be standing there and she's reading. She has to get a piece of paper. She has to read from this piece of paper. And this is her in Parliament, and this is blah 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 blah. And she's reading there. And someone asks her a question, and she stops and she looks up, and you just see the face, and it's like, back to the question, because she can't answer the question. She doesn't know her brief. She hasn't got any idea about what she's talking to. All she's doing is reading what someone else has written for her to read, written by someone who actually possibly does know the answer to the question, but she doesn't. She's not intelligent enough to answer the questions, and that's why you get that animal in the headlights look, And you can actually see the question going through her brain and her going, I don't know what that question means. I don't know what the answer is. I'll ignore it and plough on. That's what goes through, because she literally doesn't know. And she's got no answer. And you ask her intelligent questions about this. You know, what about this matter? Would that be included or excluded? And then she goes back and rereads the relevant passage because she can't answer the question. She needs to go. She absolutely needs to go. And she needs to be barred from ever being, a representative of people again. People need good, intelligent, foresightful representatives. They don't need sheer, incompetent morons. And I can't think of any other description than that. And I'm coming up. Of course, the reason she's in office is not because of any particular constituency voting her in and saying, yes, we trust you to represent us. She's a list MP. Now, I don't know how it should work, but I think there needs to be an amendment. And that is that, yes, you can join Parliament as a list MP, if that's the way you want to do things, but you cannot be a minister from being a list MP. If you're going to be a minister and responsible for any kind of department, you must be liable to the constituents of your, of where you represent. So it must be a minister can only be a constituent MP, and I think that makes more responsibility. It means that you're not getting morons who've happened to accidentally fallen into a job simply because of their seniority on a list. It's got to be. There's got to be some kind of control, and I think that making it that only constituent MPs or MSPs rather would be eligible for promotion to ministerial position should be the basis of going forward. It's something that I think needs to be looked at, and it would stop the people like this moron, ever getting their hands on power and utterly destroying everything she touches. It's the only way I think going forward. On the other hand, of course, it is interesting and it's fun to watch. Thankfully, I don't have to ever put up with her if I don't want to. I think it's time she returned to Canada. Anyway, I shall stop there. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, please do hit that subscribe button right there. Ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and do please hit the subscribe button. We're getting very, very close now to that 5,000. I see it going up nicely, and it's just like, we could do this by the end of June. It would be fantastic. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, do recycle, just not her scheme, and goodbye.